This is the Enkaus, the signature weapon that comes with Foley in the recent Shadowgrapher update. Now at first I was like, oh okay, it's just another beam weapon, which I'm very excited for. I love beam weapons. I think they're one of my favorite types of weapons in the game, and I kind of just overlooked it. Then I discovered this. Do you see what the hell is going on in this clip? Don't worry, we'll get into that later on in the video. But for today, I decided why not make a video on the Enkaus, a quick guide going over all of the stats and the features and everything about this unique weapon. It's not the best of the best weapons, or it's not like a new meta weapon, but it is something niche and fun. And if you're looking for something different, definitely give the Enkaus a try because it is worth farming. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So starting off with how the hell this beam weapon actually works. Like I said, it's a beam weapon. As per usual, it behaves like a beam weapon. What makes this weapon so special is its ult fire. Now, the ult fire will spray a blot of ink on enemies or a bunch of ink on enemies. Shooting ink-stained enemies with the Enkaus actually draws the ink back into the weapon, allowing you to sustain your ammo, basically replenishing your ammo as you shoot the enemy. It will also instantly kill enemies when their health drops below 35%, dealing a huge critical damage bonus. As you can see by the red crits, as soon as they drop below 35%, they instantly die, and you just get this huge triple red crit, stat or number that comes out. It's very, very satisfying. It is important to know how this 35% threshold works. It also counts for damage over time effects too. So for example, if you have gas or if you have blast and you've hit the enemy with the ult fire and the main fire, you can actually cause them to instantly die in groups with the ult fire if they are covered in ink. This does mean pairing this weapon with gas or blast and other Warframe abilities allows us to spread further, and the insta-kill mechanic can actually just do this chain reaction and popping. It's incredibly powerful, allowing you to delete groups of enemies at once as opposed to shooting one enemy at a time. The main fire is pretty stock standard. It has low crit stats, unfortunately, but it does have super high status chance. The crit stats aren't bad. For example, the critical damage stat is actually pretty good, but the critical chance stat is low. Status chance scales very well with any status chance increase because it's a beam weapon, let's be real. It has 60 bullets in a magazine and a slow-ish reload time of 2.2 seconds. It also scales very well with fire rate. It has innate built corrosive, which means if you put on toxin or electricity, it does not combine with the corrosive to make it stronger unless you put on both of them at the same time to get more corrosive. This does allow you to actually have viral and corrosive if you wanted to. This is very rare for weapons, by the way. There's only a few that I can remember of, and one of them off the top of my head is the Phage, and that is also a disgustingly strong beam weapon. So this is another thing that makes this weapon quite unique as well. So now that we understand how this weapon works and its features and its stats and so on, let's go into the build. Starting off with the first build right here, we have a simple crux setup. Now the reason we go for crux, in my opinion, is because then you have ammo efficiency and higher status chance. This allows you to scale your status chance to insane heights and also allows you to maintain your ammo easier. Although technically speaking, you shouldn't actually have a problem with ammo because of the fact if you shoot enemies with ink and you shoot them with your main fire, it will sustain the ammo super easy and you don't have to worry about it. But I generally like crux on beam weapons. I think it's a perfect fit. So this is what we have here today. We actually have a blast corrosive setup. You can go for a flat element or a base element, like heat, toxin, or electricity. If you wanted to, you could go gas, you name it. I opted for blast, and there's a very specific reason as to why I've opted for blast, which we'll get into later on in the video, because there is a very unique interaction with Zarta's Whisper and blast with the ult fire for this weapon. This is a crux setup as a base that you can just chop and change to use what you like and what you want. As you can see here, it's a bit of a weird one because I only have a crit chance mod and not a vital sense, which increases your crit damage. You can opt to drop crit entirely and go for other things if you wanted to. Prime Firestorm does affect the radius of the ult fire, so that is very important to know if you want to spread that ult fire more. There are many options that you can use. You can also drop Val Acceleration to use Prime Shred so that you get a bit of punch through. That is an option as well if you like something like that. You could also drop Amalgam Serration or Serration in general, and then you could actually put Arcane Rage on your Warframe if you want to scale base scaling through that, and then put on a crit mod. So as you can see, there are options, just chop and change to what you want. Then we have a Debilitate setup. Debilitate is pretty much stock standard. I mean, let's be real here, you kind of just get everything done. I do have just pure heat on, but honestly, you could actually go magnetic over here. or you could put on radiation as well. Radiated reload does work quite well with this because then you have heat, toxin, and electricity with this. It's a pretty good idea, all things considered. So debilitate is up to you and how you want to do it. Having a bane in here would also make it a hell of a lot better if you wanted to do that. So again, you can drop serration, put a bane on, and then actually just get much higher scaling with a bane with debilitate. Simple as that. Then we have a primary bulwark setup. This is for huge base damage scaling, and I have a lot of fire rate here, as you can see, as well as increased range with sinister reach. This can go on every single build, by the way, not just this one. Primary bulwark is just 500% extra flat damage. It's quite nice. It gets the job done, but only certain warframes that have lots of armor can do this. Next one is a deadhead setup, which I experimented with. Now, it does work quite well, but there is a bit of a gimmicky or weird way about it. So because you're alt firing, if you have put your alt fire onto an enemy, you cannot kill them with a headshot as the final shot because you kill them from 35% health instantly. So that does not proc deadhead. However, if you quickly kill 3 enemies before you alt fire and kill them with a headshot, you can then actually proc deadhead quite reliably. We have a blast corrosive setup as well. Up to you, you can change it or do whatever you want, but deadhead is an option. Just remember that you mustn't spam your alt fire. Just get 3 kills without the alt fire, and then you can spam your alt fire after that and have fun. It's a great way to have 24 seconds of huge base damage scaling at a time, so it's quite nice. We also have a primary overcharge setup, which only works on frames that can maintain their energy to ridiculous levels, like Garuda, Grendel, and so on. And then of course having lots of energy to do so. This is incredibly fun and satisfying to use because you have so much multi-shot, and if you pair this with Zarta's Whisper as well, it is so powerful. Like seriously, Zarta's Whisper in this weapon is just a match made in heaven. Finally, we have a gas test, which does work quite well. It's a very weird setup, but it does work. And here's what it looks like here. I do have Merciless on just to help with the scaling, and this with Zarta's Whisper works very well together. You can give this a try. For all of these builds here, the budget option would just be no prime mods, and if you don't have galvanizer mods, you just replace them with what you have available. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now that covers the builds. I will say this before we go into the certain synergies and so on. The weapon by itself is pretty good. It's not the best, but it's not the worst either. It's a very respectable beam weapon that has a nice gimmick and unique gimmick about it. It's very satisfying. You can just one tap tough enemies when they get to 35% health. It does make a huge difference compared to other weapons because it's just satisfying to use. But when you start pairing this weapon with certain warframes and their abilities, this is where it gets rather interesting. Now we're going to save the best for last, and that is Nova with Zarta's Whisper. Spoiler alert. But first, we're going to be speaking about Kullervo with Collective Curse. Here, we'll be using Kullervo and we'll be using Collective Curse. Now, the reason for this is because you kill an enemy with so much damage when they reach 35% health and lower, you do this massive damage bonus at once. If you pair all enemies together with Collective Curse and you kill one enemy very quickly, they all die because you do big amounts of damage to that one enemy because of that instant kill mechanic. This instant kill mechanic on Xms units, for example, will do like 3.2 million damage. And if you use Collective Curse, that's spread to all of those enemies. Very, very powerful synergy and highly recommended. You can also use Zarta's Whisper with Kullervo as well to further increase the effectiveness of this. Trust me, it is insane and super, super satisfying. The next frame is Mirage with her clones. Again, you can use Zarta's Whisper as well if you wanted to, but you can use Eclipse, that does work too. And then you have Eclipse, which just increases your damage to insane levels. Let's be real, it's Mirage after all. And then you just go about your day, enjoying destroying everything. Another really good warframe would be Araxia with her 4th ability and the damage vulnerability from her 2nd, because you get those little toxin explosions. It's a pretty good idea to give her a try with this weapon and its alt fire. Of course, Foley herself is very good with the Enkaus, let's be real, and just any other warframe that you feel like playing. Let's finally move on to the interaction that you saw in the beginning of the video, and an interaction that I'm quite fond of and I'm super excited to talk to you about. So how does this work? Nova's 4th ability is called Molecular Fission. What this ability does is whenever it affects an enemy, it will apply damage vulnerability, and when the enemy dies, they will explode, dealing blast damage to other nearby enemies. If you pair this with Zarta's Whisper, it will spread that damage instance with the blast to other enemies, which will then cause Zarta's Whisper to keep spreading to other nearby enemies. Now, that's pretty amazing as it is. And as we know from my previous Nova video and many other Nova videos from other people, we know that this is a very unique interaction with Nova, and she is incredibly strong with her fourth ability and Zarta's Whisper. But what happens if you pair it with the Enkaus and its alternate fire? Well, you get a similar effect. If enemies are affected by the alt fire and they pretty much instantly die, and you kill them with Blast and Zarta's Whisper and her fourth ability, you get chain reactions, which is incredibly satisfying. Now, the cool thing about this whole synergy is you can maintain your ammo because of the alt fire and hitting enemies. You can spam your alt fire like crazy because you have Crux, and you can just keep spreading your fourth ability's synergy with Zarta's Whisper with her fourth ability's augment. So it's perfect. It's such a crazy synergy and it's super satisfying. It's one of the craziest things that I've seen, and it's just, you could just hear the popcorn. Like when you actually just hear all the enemies that are affected by the blast and the Zarta's Whisper bubbles, it's like popcorn. It's so satisfying. So yeah, so this is the main synergy that I wanted to show you guys that actually just breaks the Enkaus. So yeah, it is crazy. With that being said though, and how it all works with Nova's fourth ability, how do you actually play the build in mission? It's very, very simple. All you have to do is keep Zarta's Whisper up at all times. You have your first ability up at all times as well. You'll periodically cast Molecular Prime so that you can actually affect more enemies at once. And then what you do is you alt fire enemies the whole time. Now, there is something very specific or something you have to watch out for. If you do alt fire into a void bubble, that projectile will then be sucked into the void bubble and go straight for that enemy. So a way that you can do it is just constantly try and shoot through the bubbles the whole time, or you shoot on the floor or nearby the enemy so that it affects more enemies at once. This does become a little bit annoying when you're trying to hit enemies behind you or at the back and so on. So that's why I suggest you shoot the floor and try and miss the bubbles. But other than that, if you don't really care, just shoot the bubbles and I promise you it will spread more than enough. It's still super satisfying either way. To show you the Nova build, this is what you're going to need right here. Now, I do not have Equilibrium on, so you can instead put a purple shard onto Nova if you wanted to, or you could drop a mod here and then go for Equilibrium just to help with that little bit of energy sustain. We do go Molecular Fission to spread her fourth ability more. It just helps a little bit. And this is what the setup looks like. We have Arcane Rage because remember, we do not have base damage scaling on our Crux build. Other than that, like I said, you have to give this a try for other Warframes that you want to play or use because it is that good. It's just whatever you want to do. I do find that Blast and Zarta's Whisper just works with this weapon quite well. So if you want to use just that synergy, that works too. Another good Warframe is Lavos with his forced procs with Valence Formation. That's pretty stock standard. Other than that, let me know your thoughts on the Enkaus and your thoughts on Foley. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope you give this weapon a try with Nova and Zarta's Whisper because it's really satisfying. You guys have to give it a try. Thank you so much for watching this quick video. I hope you guys learned something new. And if you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It goes a long way for me. Thank you so much for your support. As always, a massive thank you to our channel members. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for your support. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support. I will see you guys in the next video.